Ladies and gentlemen, what do you do when you hear a whisper that something's about to change, but you don't know how or when or why? We're not here today to talk about fear. We're here to talk about faith, vision, and the clarity that comes when we learn to trust the process. The why every great movement, every breakthrough, every transformation starts with one critical question. Why? Not what. What? Not how, not when, but why. Because once you know your why, you can endure any process, face any obstacle, and remain anchored even when everything around you is shifting. So when we say, God said this will happen in April 2025, the most important thing we can ask is not, what's going to happen? The question is, why did God tell me this ahead of time? We live in a world that glorifies the urgent. We want dates, we want signs, we want strategies, but divine timing doesn't operate on deadlines, it operates on purpose. When God gives you a whisper, when He gives you a warning, when He gives you insight into something coming, it's not to stir your anxiety, it's to awaken your assignment. Because the people who make the biggest impact in this life aren't the ones who waited until the earthquake shook the ground. They're the ones who started building when the ground still looked stable. April 2025 may be a date on your calendar, but to God, it's a season in your calling. He told you for a reason. You were not chosen at random. You were not given insight so you could sit in silence. You were told because He's activating something inside of you now. The why isn't about events. It's about alignment. It's about positioning your heart, your mind, and your habits to be in the right place when the shift arrives. It's about getting clear on your mission so that when April 2025 comes, you don't respond with surprise, you respond with strength. Why does God reveal something before it happens? Because He's a builder. And builders don't begin projects without blueprints. If God gave you the blueprints, even just a glimpse, it means there's construction ahead. And you are not only the material, you are the messenger. You've been invited to prepare, to lead, and to model what it means to live from vision instead of fear. God shares the coming soon with visionaries, not with doubters. Because visionaries don't need proof, they need purpose. When Simon Sinek talks about starting with why, he's not just giving advice for business. He's teaching a principle that applies to leadership, life, and legacy. Your why is the engine that drives your decisions. It's the filter that tells you what to say yes to and what to walk away from. If you believe something is going to happen in April 2025, your why becomes the compass that directs your next steps. Not just for what's ahead, but for who you are becoming in the process. If you've heard from God, that means you're accountable to the message. The why is not passive, it's powerful. It pulls you out of procrastination and into preparation. It transforms the way you wake up in the morning, the way you handle your relationships, and the way you steward your time. It doesn't matter if no one else sees what you see. The clarity isn't for them, it's for you. You don't need their permission to take action. You just need their patience to understand it later. Let me say this clearly. If God said it, then it matters. Not because it's trending, not because it's convenient, but because it's necessary. There is something that must shift in you now so that what's meant to be released in April 2025 doesn't find you unprepared. That is why He said it. Not to intimidate you, to empower you. Because the moment you know your why, you become unstoppable. Of course. Here's an expanded version of step 2, the how, with a main heading only, no subheadings or conclusion, and written in approximately 600 words in the motivational and visionary tone of Simon Sinek. Step 2, the how. Once you understand why something matters, the next natural question becomes how. How do I respond? How do I prepare for what God said is coming? How do I position myself so that I'm not just aware of the word, I'm aligned with it? See, the challenge most people face isn't believing that something is coming, it's knowing what to do with that belief. Belief without action is just a thought, but belief that fuels action, that's the beginning of transformation. That's how vision becomes reality. When God gives you a word, when He tells you something will happen in April 2025, He's not inviting you to be a bystander, He's activating you to become a builder. He's handing you tools, not just information. So the question is, what are you building? What are you doing right now that shows you trust the instruction even when you don't yet see the outcome? How you respond now determines how ready you'll be when the moment arrives. The people who are most effective in times of shift are the ones who started moving before the rest of the world noticed the wind changing direction. Simon Sinek teaches us that clarity comes from action, and the truth is, you don't need to know every detail to take a step. You don't need to see the whole picture to begin preparing. The how isn't about perfection, it's about intention. You're not called to control the outcome. You're called to align your life with the expectation that something is coming. That might mean adjusting your schedule. That might mean changing your mindset. That might mean saying no to distractions that were tolerable last year but will be destructive this year. This is the season where your discipline must match your desire. Because when God says something is coming, He's not looking for you to just nod in agreement. He's waiting for you to respond like someone who actually believes it. That means creating space in your life for the new thing He's about to release. It means making decisions that feel uncomfortable now because they're designed to prepare you for the comfort that's coming later. That's how faith works. It moves before it sees. It prepares before the proof shows up. What are the habits you're building right now that reflect your belief in what God has spoken? What is your routine telling God that you're waiting on confirmation or that you're already committed? This is the part where leadership begins to rise, because leadership is not about titles, it's about posture. And when God gives you foresight, it's because He wants to shape your character before He showcases your calling. You don't have to do everything, but you do have to do something. You don't have to be the fastest, you just have to be faithful. Every morning you wake up and choose to live with purpose, you're declaring that you're not going to miss what's coming. Every time you choose preparation over procrastination, you're telling heaven, I believe you. That's how you prepare. Not with panic, but with purpose. How do you prepare? You stop waiting for motivation and start practicing discipline. You stop asking for signs and start walking by faith. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. Because when God says it's coming, He's not trying to impress you with prophecy. He's inviting you into strategy. He's handing you a key, but it's up to you to unlock the door. How you handle now is what determines whether April 2025 is a breakthrough or a missed moment. You don't prepare when the wave is visible. You prepare when the water is still. You don't build the ark when the clouds form. You build when the skies are blue. That's how you move in faith. That's how you move with vision. That's how you move like someone who knows that when God says it, He means it. The who, when God speaks a word, it's not spoken to everyone. It's spoken to someone. Not everyone hears it. Not everyone is meant to, because not everyone is ready. But if you heard it, if your spirit stirred when God said something would happen in April 2025, then this isn't a general announcement. It's a personal assignment. And the question becomes not what is happening or even how you'll respond, but this: who is this word really for? You. It's for you. That may seem obvious, but it's easy to overlook. Sometimes we hear something powerful and think it's for the masses. Sometimes we want to pass it along without first asking why we were chosen to receive it. But God is intentional. If He told you something is coming, it's because you are a critical part of what's coming, not as a spectator, as a steward, as a leader, as a voice in the storm before the calm, as a stabilizer for others when the season changes. Simon Sinek reminds us that leadership isn't about being in charge, it's about taking care of those in your charge. And when you've been given a divine heads up, you have a responsibility not just to be prepared for yourself, but to be positioned for others. You are not just being prepared to survive what's coming, you're being equipped to lead through it, to speak hope into chaos, to offer clarity in confusion, to live with faith while others are still trying to understand what's happening. That's why you were told, because you're different. You don't think like the rest, you don't act like the rest. You've never been satisfied with surface-level answers. You've always sensed there was something more, something deeper, something higher, calling to you. And now that something is here, the world may not understand it yet. Your friends may not see it, even your family might not recognize it, but you do. And that makes you the one. Not the only one, but the one in your circle, the one in your generation, the one in your lane, the one who was chosen to move first. It's never about credentials. It's always about calling. God doesn't choose based on resume. He chooses based on readiness. And readiness is not about how much you know. It's about how willing you are. Willing to obey without full instructions. Willing to stand even if it means standing alone. Willing to speak when silence feels safer. Willing to believe when doubt seems louder. Willing to walk with vision when the path is invisible. The truth is, the who of this message is not just the receiver. It's the responder. It's not the one who heard, but the one who listens. It's not the one who's impressed by the word, but the one who's changed by it. And if that's you, then understand this. What God will do in April 2025 will reflect the preparation of the person you are now becoming. You are not waiting for the future. The future is already waiting on you. You've been handed a moment, a mission, and a mantle. And like Simon Sinek says, people will follow you not because you tell them to, but because you live in a way that invites them to believe. Your life becomes the example, your steps become the signal, your obedience becomes the evidence. And as God brings what He promised, people will begin to ask how you knew, how you were ready, how you stayed steady. It will be alignment, it will be your who. So who is this word for? It's for the leader who doesn't yet feel like a leader. The one who's been faithful in silence. The one who's wrestled in prayer when no one was watching. The one who's been quietly building, growing, and seeking for something greater. You. That's who. The what exactly is going to happen in April 2025? That's the question everyone wants answered. We want to know the specifics. We want dates, details, and definitions. But that's not how vision works. That's not how God leads. He doesn't give us blueprints so we can avoid trusting Him. He gives us direction so we can walk by faith. The what isn't always about events. It's not always about changes we can see. Sometimes the what is about what's going to be revealed, what's going to be shifted, and what's going to be released in and through you. What if the thing God is preparing to do isn't happening to you, it's happening through you? What if you are the vessel of the very thing you've been praying for? We often want external change, but God starts with internal transformation. So what will happen in April 2025 may not be something you can predict, but it will be something you are prepared for. And that's the key difference between the world's anticipation and heaven's assurance. The world needs certainty before it moves. God's people move in obedience before they understand. Simon Sinek talks about the importance of clarity, but he also reminds us that clarity does not require complete certainty. You can be clear about your purpose and still be walking into the unknown. What's going to happen in April 2025 might not look like anything you expected. It may not come wrapped in comfort. It may not be obvious to those around you. But make no mistake, when God says something will happen, He doesn't speak for entertainment. He speaks with intentionality. What is coming is a shift, a pivot, a divine release. It could be the breaking of a delay that's been holding you back. It could be the manifestation of a promise you've been holding on to. It could be the removal of a barrier, the birth of a dream, or the unveiling of a purpose that's been hidden in plain sight. Whatever it is, it will be tied to what you've been sowing in secret. April 2025 will not be random. It will be the result of everything you've believed, prepared for, and aligned with in this season. Some people are waiting to see the evidence before they believe the word. But the ones who will experience what God has planned are those who believe the word long before the evidence appears. What is coming will not make sense to those who didn't hear the whisper. That's okay. It wasn't for them. It was for you. And that's why the preparation has felt lonely. That's why the pruning has been intense. That's why the warfare has increased, because what's about to happen carries weight. And God doesn't release weight into weak foundations. The what is not about being shocked. It's about being shaped. It's not about one big moment. It's about every small act of faith leading up to it. It might be a breakthrough in your business, a reconciliation in your family, a calling that finally becomes clear, a door that suddenly swings open, a platform you didn't seek but were prepared for, or maybe it's peace. Maybe the what is the restoration of your joy, the return of your confidence, the realization that you didn't miss it, you were being matured for it. Whatever happens in April 2025, it will affirm that every step you took in faith was worth it. It will prove that your waiting was not wasted. And it will show the world that while others were reacting, you were preparing. That while others were asking, what if, you were living even if. You won't be surprised by the what because you trusted the who, obeyed the why, and aligned with the how. The when. Timing is everything in leadership, in life, in purpose, and especially in the unfolding of God's plan. When God says something will happen in April 2025, He's not just giving a time stamp. He's setting an appointment with destiny, a divine window, a kairos moment. That when is not just about chronology, it's about readiness. It's about the convergence of preparation and opportunity. It's about a moment in time when everything you've endured, everything you've built, everything you've prayed for begins to make sense. Most people miss their moment not because they're not called, but because they're not ready. They didn't take the time to recognize the importance of timing. They assumed it would all fall into place without effort. But God doesn't operate on convenience. He operates on divine timing. And when He gives you a when, it's not a suggestion, it's a signal. It means you are stepping into a season that carries weight and consequence. April 2025 is not just another month, it's a launchpad. Simon Sinek teaches that great leaders don't react, they anticipate. And anticipation is rooted in awareness. If you know something is coming, you think differently, you plan differently. You show up differently. Knowing the when gives you an edge. It tells you that now is the time to finish the unfinished, to strengthen the weak places, to finalize the vision, to clear the clutter. Because when the moment comes, there won't be time to prepare. You'll have to be already prepared. What separates those who rise in their moment from those who miss it isn't talent, it's timing. It's their respect for time. It's their reverence for divine appointments. If God says April 2025, then you're now become sacred. Your current decisions are not casual, they are strategic. Every day between now and then is an opportunity to get closer to what He's preparing to release. The urgency you feel is not anxiety, it's alignment. It's your spirit recognizing the countdown has begun. The when isn't just about you being ready, it's about everything around you being ready too. People, places, resources, and relationships are being aligned. The doors that were closed last year may open suddenly in that moment, not because you forced them, but because the timing finally matches the promise. God doesn't bless ahead of schedule because premature favor can crush unprepared people. But when the appointed time arrives, what seemed hard becomes easy. What felt far becomes near. What was hidden becomes visible. You've been asking for confirmation, for clarity, for signs. This is your sign. The when is now on the calendar. You're not just waiting on God. God is now waiting on you. Waiting on you to stop hesitating, to stop doubting, to stop delaying the decisions you know you need to make. Waiting on you to stop playing small when He's called you to lead. Because when April 2025 arrives, the shift won't wait. It will require immediate obedience, and only those who've respected the time will recognize the moment. This is the season to be decisive, to stop treating your calling like an option, to stop managing your purpose like a side project. If you truly believe April 2025 is significant, then everything you do from this day forward must reflect that belief. You can't afford to be passive with time anymore. Time is a currency, and how you spend it reveals what you value most. God gave you the win, not to create pressure, but to stir passion, not to cause fear, but to ignite focus. April 2025 will not wait for your convenience. It will not adjust to your comfort. It will arrive exactly as promised. And when it does, you'll either step into it with power or shrink back wishing you had done more with the days leading up to it. The clock is not your enemy, it is your ally. And every tick is a reminder, this is not the time to coast, this is the time to commit.